I wanted to make this video to explain to you, if you're new to programming, what programs are for and a few of the things that you might see often in a program. So what do programs do? Almost every program you're going to write takes some information in. We call that input. They then do either a calculation or they make a decision because of the input, and we call that a process. They do something to that information, we call that a process, and then as a result of that they output some sort of answer. It might be text or it might be a change in something. So it could be the input that you switch on the boiler. The program works out how to do that. You tell it the input to switch on, it works out how to do that, and then the output in that case could be that the boiler comes on. But sometimes it's just the result of a calculation written on the screen. So we always talk about input, process and output. And the thing that you're going to find hardest when you actually start writing your own program is breaking down the change that you've got into those separate steps. How you can tell the computer what information is going in, how you tell it to do that calculation or that process, and how you want that information to come out. If you've never coded before, this video is a very useful video that introduces it to you. Okay, so what is a program for? Well, usually it is either a complex job that you want doing once, like a very complex calculation, or something boring but simple that you want repeating many, many times. Almost always you need an input, what numbers or words to work with this time that it's run. Almost always you have an output, it gives out an answer somehow. The computer program almost always needs to store the values, either the value that comes in, or the calculated value, or the result of that decision. And we call that a variable. We have to name a place that we can store that value. That's called a variable. Different information is stored in different what we call data types. So if it's working with numbers, a whole number for instance is an integer, then you usually want to do some sort of calculation with it, and then you want to check the answer. And sums, just like in school, sums are calculated with operators like plus, minus, divide, multiply, and you always or often need to check the answer, and we use what we call comparison operators. So we might say, if the result is a certain number, do something else, or if it's greater than something, do something else. And those are called comparison operators. If it's working with words, you might want to break down parts. So if it's a first name and last name together, you might want to pull those apart. Sometimes you want to do the same thing many times, and what we do in that case is we save that group of instructions as a function or a routine, and then we just call that routine each time we want to do that group of instructions. So instead of writing those instructions many times down the program, we just call it each time, and it goes back and finds the list of instructions. Another thing you might be interested in is you might want to save the answer that the program has come up with so that you can go off and look at it again another time. And so sometimes we want to write the answer to a file and call that file management. So what we're going to be talking about in the next series of videos, we're going to be explaining to you how you input, how you store that answer or that input, and that's called variables. We're going to talk to you about how you do calculations with operators. We're going to show you how to check those answers with comparison operators. We're going to show you how to repeat things. We have a repeat instruction or a for, so that we loop many times. I'll show you that. We're going to show you how the computer or the program will decide which way to go depending on the answer. And we have a special sequence called if, then, else. We're going to show you how to do that. We're going to show you how to give out the answer in the most simple ways in Python, using print, which shows the answer on the screen, or writing to a different file. We're going to talk to you about different data types, with the way that numbers are stored is different from the way that words are stored, because numbers have to be ready to use calculations on them, but you can't do calculations on words. So numbers can be calculated, whole numbers or integers, decimal numbers. Words we call strings. And if we want to write a group of instructions that we repeat, we call that a function, and we're going to show you how to do that. And if you, I'm going to show you some short videos how to do each of those, but if you want further instruction, you really and to understand it, I'd love you to listen to my videos, but also you need to see other people explaining the same thing in different ways until it clicks. W3 Schools, if you search W3 Schools Python, it's an excellent resource with lots and lots of examples you can use. Or there are videos on YouTube. Free Code Camp is an excellent resource. There is a 4-hour video here. It sounds like a long video, but it will explain all those things that you want to understand. Just click it on, do a few examples, and follow it for a few days, and you will get a really good understanding. And as I say, you really need to have the same thing explained in lots of different ways to help you to understand till it really clicks what certain things are for. I certainly, when I was first explained certain things in programming, I couldn't understand why I needed to do those things. And that's what those different sources of information with Free Code Camp and W3 Schools Python with its examples is going to be excellent to help you. And if you ever think you don't understand enough, go and find those and try them out. It's a long, steep learning curve, but you'll be pleased you did it.